What is up, everybody? We are going to do another recipe today, and this is a particular favorite of mine, and it happens to be a favorite of many people in the country we live in, specifically who attend Italian restaurants. Today we're going to be cooking something called chicken piccata. Now, traditionally, chicken piccata is not a Warrior 20 approved food. The chicken is generally breaded, it's cooked with lots of butter, there's lots of pasta, all the great things that make Italian food not so good for your waistline, but we are going to do a version of it today that is in line with our Warrior 20 foods, that is clean, that is healthy, and we're going to walk through each of the ingredients. I'm going to show you how to cook this. It's a quick dish, it's a flavorful dish. I think you're really going to like it, so let's look at the ingredients. Okay, so the basic seasons that we're going to use today are just simple sea salt and pepper. Most of the great dishes that we will be cooking with will not have too many complex seasons. Food is honestly, I think in my opinion, better tasting when it is more simply seasoned. Salt and pepper do a lot more than what we often realize. We're going to be using garlic, another favorite of mine. It was in the last video. It's going to be in several videos. I love garlic. Almond flour. Now we are going to bread the chicken just lightly, and to get away from the basic white flour, we're going to use almond flour. It is an approved ingredient. In fact, it's in some of the shred recipes as well, and it's a favorite of mine for a substitute for the typical flour. We also have lemon that I have already sliced, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in a minute. We have olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. We have capers. Capers are an unblossomed flower bud for a flower in the Mediterranean. Very tasty. Some just basic white cooking wine. You can pick this up at the store near the oils. And then, of course, our chicken broth. And then the star of the show, the chicken. So we will get this thing rolling and see where it all ends up. Okay, so before we begin, we have chicken breasts. These are just basic chicken breasts. And one of the things that we want to be sure to do when we cook chicken piccata and any other pan-seared chicken recipe is to take the breast and we're going to fillet it this way to try and thin them out. The problem is that when we get a good sear on the chicken, if it's left too thick, it will sear well, and then the inside of the chicken will end up raw, and that's no good. That will cause disease and hospital bills and things that we don't want to do. So we're going to take the chicken and, we're going to just lightly cut it. Don't cut yourself, but just all the way down and follow the chicken. They're not going to be perfectly even, that's okay. But by doing so, now we have a much thinner chicken that's butterflied out, and it's going to be perfect for what we're going for right now. Okay, the next thing to do is to lightly season the chicken, and so we're going to put some salt, pepper on it, and then we're going to just lightly layer it in the almond flour. We'll go ahead and do the almond flour first, actually, just so you guys can see how this is going to work. We're going to take the chicken here, and remember, we've already thinned this out, and we have the almond here. We're going to just lay it down in the almond, lightly pat it, flip it, and we're done. That goes here, and you'll just repeat that, and then we'll lightly salt and pepper those, and we'll get ready to cook. Okay, here we go. We're about to start cooking the chicken. You can see here we have the skillet, and it is hot. It is on the high side of medium-high, on the low side of high. You don't want it quite at high. High is a little too aggressive. Depending upon, of course, your stove settings. Some stoves are hotter than others. But typically around the high side of medium-high. Put the olive oil in. You want to coat the pan decently. You're not deep frying or anything like that, so don't do that. But enough oil to kind of coat the pan and have just a little small layer on there to be able to really cook the chicken. And then we're going to just throw the chicken in. You're not going to probably be able to do it all at one time unless you're just cooking for one. But even then, you probably want to cook in bulk so you have leftovers. This will keep fairly well. And so you'll probably likely have to do 2 rounds of cooking. But what we will do is just take the chicken here. I've already salted and peppered it. You can see that here. And we're just going to lightly lay it in. You'll hear it sizzle, which means it's doing its job. And it's going to be pretty flavorful, guys. We'll cook this up, and then we'll do the sauce. Okay, so here we are. We have the chicken in the pan. I like to use these little guys. It makes it a little easier to not get burned. You can see we're not quite brown yet, so we're going to leave it in there for probably around 3 minutes per side, maybe a little bit longer. We've only been cooking now for about a minute, and so we're going to leave this in here for a couple more minutes. I also have over here some butternut squash that has been cubed. You can buy it like this at the store. You can also do it yourself, depending on whether or not you want to spend the extra money. It's not too terrible to do this yourself, but sometimes when you're on a time crunch, it is worth it to have they're already done for you. I'm cooking that in light avocado oil, and I just lightly season it once again with salt and pepper. It's going to serve as a substitute instead of the pasta that this is typically served with. Okay, you can see we've been in here for about 3 minutes now. This is starting to kind of crisp up on the edges. That's looking really nice there. This little guy is a little thicker, but he's got a nice little sear going, and then of course that is looking pretty excellent. So probably another 30 seconds on this. We'll go ahead and flip it over, and we'll have a nice start here to a classic dish. Okay, you can see I have already added another one of the chicken breasts. These are starting to look really good. I usually take a plate and put a paper towel folded over in half for this to soak up some of the oil. And so we're going to go ahead and start pulling some of these smaller pieces that have definitely cooked all the way through, and get them pulled over. That's looking really nice. This thicker one we want to leave on just a little longer. We're going to go over here and get this last guy and put him down in. And once we get this done, you're going to want to make sure not to touch anything in the pan. Don't discard any of the oil, because we're going to use that as a base for the piccata sauce, and we'll talk about that here in a minute using the rest of the ingredients that we showed in the beginning of the video. So we will finish this up, and then we'll come to the sauce here in just a second. So we have cooked the chicken. It looks great. It smells excellent. We're about to start the sauce, and so what we're going to do is use some of the ingredients that we talked about here in a moment, and a moment ago, sorry. And we're going to first deglaze the pan. So we haven't removed anything other than the chicken. The oil is still there. It's still on. It's still cooking. And we're going to take this white cooking wine. This is a 1/4 cup, and we're going to just add it. It's gonna steam quite a bit. Don't let that alarm you. But don't pour it all in at one time either. You do want to go ahead and take it off the heat, probably at this point, because we just finished the cooking process here. So we're going to take it off the heat, add the rest of this guy right here. What that's going to do is deglaze the pan. It's obviously sizzling quite a bit because it's still very hot, but it's going to loosen up all of that excess oil and the excess bits of chicken that have cooked on there, and provide a lot of flavor here in just a moment. We're back on the heat now, but at low temperature. I'm going to add the chicken broth in here as well, and then we are going to add a little bit of the lemon that we sliced up, and I just cut those into slices. You can see this is, I don't know what the measurement of that is, maybe a 1/2 centimeter or so, but we're going to just sort of line the pan with that. And here in a moment, we're going to go ahead and throw in the garlic and capers as well. Heat back on high now, and it is starting to pick up temperature. I've added garlic. Once again, this is just about a large forkful. And then I've also added some capers, a couple forks full of that as well. Of course, chicken broth we already did. The white cooking wine is in there, and the lemons. Now, a note on the cooking wine: if that makes you uncomfortable, if you are somebody who does not drink alcohol on a recreational basis, don't worry. Neither am I. And cooking wine is an essential thing in deglazing the pan. And beyond that, it cooks out any of the alcohol well before you will eat it. So don't feel like that is somehow a problem for you if you are somebody who doesn't drink. Now, with that being said, if you're somebody obviously with more than just a liking of alcohol, but if you are somebody who struggles with alcohol addiction, then do not use white cooking wine. just use the chicken broth, and you can use a spoon to kind of scrape some of these things down. Certainly don't want any of our warriors purchasing something that would cause problems for any of you at any point in your life. And so the goal of this journey is health, and anything that's counterintuitive to that, we certainly want to avoid. We're going to just let this simmer for a minute. We're going to throw the chicken back in, and it's going to be ready to roll. Well, here it is, the finished product. It looks amazing, and my kids are certainly hungry because they are in the living room kind of going crazy. So it's done just in time. It didn't take that long. It took me a little longer because I was filming it, but enjoy this, guys. It's incredible. It is, wow, pretty amazing. Flavor is excellent. Texture's right. I think you're gonna like this one. Feels good to be a warrior. Remember, warrior foods make warrior bodies, and there's nothing wrong with this. All flavor, great nutrients. The sub pasta with the butternut squash really knocks us out of the park. You could throw some wilted spinach in this as well. It'd be fantastic with that sauce. But halusa, it's gonna be amazing. Hope you love it. Look forward to the next video. Have a good day or night, whatever time it is for you. See ya.